When? If you can't give us a date, can you tell us, can you narrow it down?
I can give you an exact date if I can refer to an SMS stream.
By all means. What SMS stream are you referring to, Mr. Robert?
Some SMSs, sir, that Kristen Bolton sent to me.
Right. On this, to do with this subject that I just asked you about?
Yes.
Are they private?
They are.
Right.
You asked a question, I'm happy to answer it, sir.
Mm-hmm.
On the 14th of April, KB asked about register of interest for councillor, but it was the wrong form. Then on the same day, she sent me through the proposed, her proposed declaration form.
Right.
Going through the various donors, Bolton, Mohawk.
In typed form, do you recall?
No, I'm looking at it now. It's handwritten. And it's got Fadden Forum there. She then asked for the Fadden Forum. She asked, just need address for Fadden Forum to put in my electoral disclosure. Then I'll type it out, have it ready. She then said, PO Box 792, Bigger Waters from memory should do it. I went, yeah, that would do. But I need to run it by the party to ensure you've correctly disclosed everything because I'm not familiar with the forms. So advice was sought from Kristen to me. Then I was going to seek advice.
Just recap on what advice she asked, she sought from you.
PO Box 7, boss, just need to address from Fadden Forum to put in my electoral disclosure. PO Box 792, Bigger Waters from memory should do it, exclamation mark. Said, yep, that will do it. And yes, please send to me so I can run it via the party to ensure you've disclosed everything.
So did she subsequently send you her disclosure return? Your draft?
Yes. Yes, on the 5th of May, she sent me through a disclosure return. And then I sought advice from the party.
Right. Did you note how the donation was entered onto her draft disclosure return?
It says Fadden Forum.
Did you see that on the draft she provided to you?
Yes.
Did you had you given her any advice about what should go on to her disclosure return?
Yes. So I then asked the party as
before, no, sorry, Mr. Rob. Before that, so you received a draft from her, I think you told us.
Yes.
Which already had the words Fadden Forum inscribed on them.
Yes.
To do with these donations. Prior to receiving that draft with those words included in TypeScript, I'm asking you, did you give her any advice about how this donation should be recorded?
No, not prior, but once she'd sent it through to me, I then went and got advice. And I think this was, in defending the LNP here a little, people were unsure what to put it down. So the advice was to put the Fadden Forum. And then I think subsequent legal advice came back saying, actually, no, you've got to list all of the office bearers of the party and there's a set way of doing it. And I think that's when Felicity Stevenson redid her declaration to properly show that. I think there's a bit of a journey of discovery here.
Did you tell Kristen Bolton that Fadden Forum was the appropriate form of disclosure?
I went back to her to say, when I sought advice from the party, and the party said Fadden Forum, I said, this is the advice from the party, the Fadden Forum.
Right. And she apparently already had a post office box address because she asked you in an SMS if that was the correct address.
That's right, yes. She'd actually given to me. PO Box 792, Bigger Waters, from memory, should do it. That's what she asked me, and I went, yep, but let me seek advice.
Well, you say you did take advice about how this should be disclosed.
Yes.
What was the advice you got?
Was to put the Fadden Forum.
Okay. And that's what you told Ms. Bolton?
Yep.
But then later there was some further advice. Is that how I understand it?
I think later on, when Felicity Stevenson's legal counsel said, hang on, this is not how it should look. You've got to list all the office bearers. And I think that's when it dawned on the party and everyone else involved that that was the method by which it should be done.
Did Kristen Bolton, in the course of communications with you, make reference to the entries as they appeared on her bank statement indicating an LNP donation?
No.
Did she ask you for any clarification about that?
I don't believe so.
Did she mention bank statements and their contents at all?
No. I'm just going back to this text stream, sir. So on the Friday the 6th of May, Kristen sent me the copies of the bank statements with highlighting the amounts. And it's got FYI, Stu, RE KB disclosure form, the deposit comes up as Liberal National Party Central Banking on banking search and LNP donation in description on statement, except for the last one, $5,000, instantly comes up at LNP Fadden donation on the statement, TAR just FYI KB.
And she asked you what that meant?
No, she just sent me those two bank statements with that text at the end.
All right. Was there any apparent purpose in the communication of her sending you the bank statements?
Reference meeting discussion next Tuesday. I was clearly meeting and discussed with her on Tuesday. So that was Friday the 6th of May.
Mr. Robert, would you be prepared to make that set of communications available to the Commission?
I'd seek advice from legal counsel first, sir.
Would Commission officers take up with you about that after today?
I'm more than happy to have a discussion. If I can just make a point, in terms of this entire process, you'll get every assistance from me. I asked for the interview. I provided all the bank statements.
Understood.
I've given everything, so I don't think there'll be a problem.
Yeah. You appreciate we're trying to piece together the sequence of communications, and it turns out you have a record of them.
I do.
At least some of them. Hence the interest. Do you understand?
The beauty of an iPad message. It actually keeps everything.
Okay. To your knowledge, were the payments made by the Liberal National Party to Kristen Bolton and Felicity Stevenson disclosed in the Liberal Party's disclosure return?
Yes, the party is meticulous on these matters. Absolutely meticulous. It's one of the reasons why the party runs a central banking system. In the previous Liberal Party, it didn't used to. Each individual divisional council, of which there were 30 federally and 89 states, ran their own banking and disclosure systems. When the two parties merged, it all became one banking system, one set of disclosure, all centrally managed. So no one could spend a cent without it going through due process at head office.
Now, neither Ms Bolton nor Ms Stevenson were party endorsed, were they? Because that's the nature of local council elections, certainly on the Gold Coast.
That's correct.
So they campaign as independents, correct?
That's correct.
Could I just ask you for your view about whether their independence, or declared and promoted independence, is compromised by having received, in both cases, $30,000 from the Liberal National Party?
It certainly would have helped if that was more widely known.
It really couldn't be known by an inscription on the disclosure return of the words Fadden Forum, could it?
No.
The average person wouldn't have a clue.
Correct,
would
not
they?
readily. That's correct.
So that without attributing any sinister intent to anyone, when the disclosure returns come to be made public, a person could look at the entries and not appreciate that both those campaigns were very substantially funded by the Liberal National Party.
That is a reasonable statement.
Do you think that not only presented some challenges for independence, but perhaps also presented some challenge for managing conflicts of interest for those people, not knowing the names behind Fadden Forum and where the money was actually coming from?
Yeah, that's a reasonable statement, and I appreciate where you're coming from. Because the Fadden Forum is a reasonably large fundraising house, and it fundraises right across the country, it's not as if a certain small group of people donated to the forum. It receives wide-ranging amounts, and all appropriately declared and disclosed. So whilst on the surface, yes, that is a reasonable thing to say, in actuality, in this case, it won't be the case. But I appreciate the intent of the question, sir.
Just take a look at this, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Robert. It's past time, but we're nearly finished, so it'll be better to finish today rather than come back some other time.
I've got plenty of time, sir.
Liberal National Party disclosure return.
Can you refer me to where I'm going on it?
I'll just ask you to look at the document as a whole, if you don't mind. And
Yep.
does that appear to be the Liberal National Party disclosure return?
Having never looked at one because the party doesn't, but reading from the front page, it says disclosure return, registered political party, and it says Liberal National Party of Australia. And the Angela Awabadi is the agent and she is the secretary. So that's, without having a look at it, it's a fair assumption, sir.
Okay, you've not seen it before. You know such a thing exists.
The party is, again, meticulous in terms of its declarations.
Yeah, all right. With those limitations, I'll tender that disclosure return, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Exhibit 17.
Just finally, you know Simone Holzefeld?
I do.
You know that she runs the business of Shack Communications and what it does.
Yes, sir, I do.
Did you play any part in either Ms Bolton or Ms Stevenson making use of that business to assist their campaigns?
Can't recall, but if my advice was sought, I would have recommended her highly.
Okay. Apart from the matters we've spoken about, did you give any other form of assistance to the campaign of either Ms Bolton or Ms Stevenson?
No, I wasn't having a particularly good February or March, if you recall. So I didn't have any correspondence with them at all, to the best of my recollection. I'm not even sure I turned up on polling day.
And I think we've exhausted the oral communications that you had from the end of January through to election time.
Yeah, pretty much nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see.
If I may, sir, local politics is not my thing. As a general rule, if you play on someone else's turf, they'll play on yours. So I just don't get involved. In this case...
you saw implications for you?
Serious implications for me. The union movement, and they play hard and it's without prejudice, all power to them. But they're not an organisation you dismiss lightly. When they seek to run people, they run hard. They put in hundreds of thousands of dollars into the local election campaign. They are a serious force. Now, politics is a battle of ideas. That's what it is, that's what it should be. And we believe our ideas are superior to theirs, again, without prejudice. And our job is to present our ideas in the best possible way.
You didn't want their ideas spreading?
No, not at all.
Not on your turf?
Not at all. And whilst $50,000, $60,000 to two candidates is a lot of money by community standards, I appreciate it. If the Labor Party gets a foothold, I'll have to spend a lot more money defending our ideas than that.
All right.
Hey, Mr. Rice, Mr. Braithwaite, do you have any questions?
Just one procedural matter. Perhaps if you can issue a direction to provide the SMS communications that are referred to, then that can be provided under compulsion in inverted commas.
Yeah.
And it might just save the issuance of a notice and save a bit of stationery being created.
All right, well, I'll issue that direction. Mr. Robert has indicated his preparedness to hand it over.
Of course.
Taking into account your advice, I'm happy to direct that it be provided. So if you can just liaise with Mr. Rice about how that can be done physically, we'll get that underway.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you. No other applications, I assume? No? Thank you. Thank you for your time, Mr. Robert. You're excused.
Thank you, sir.
And I think that brings us to the end of the day, so we'll adjourn now and resume at 10 a.m. in the morning.